All right, give me 1 second. I just gotta send the stream out. Hey, Dennis. Let me know if you can hear me. You talking about your consulting channel? Okay. How's your consulting going anyway? Nice. Yeah, I got some buddies that are accountants, and what they're telling me is basically like, accounting is one of those things that's not going to be replaced by AI. So my whole thing is, it just seems like whatever field I've tried to get into, like before I got into computers because I was studying the CompTIA. Um, I was in healthcare, uh, not like as a professional, as an X-ray tech or whatever, but like I was a pharmacy technician, right? And so all you have to do really for that is just get a certification, and then you could work at a hospital or whatever, right? But at that company I was working for in the United States, I know you're in Australia, but the United States, we have a for-profit healthcare system. And so a lot of our pharmacies, especially like the local pharmacies that we used to have, they get bought up by big corporations that are like, it's a for-profit healthcare system. So what ended up happening is the company that I worked for expanded way too much for profit, and that they also love to, yeah, like United Healthcare. And so what had happened is they they squeezed the crews that we had, right? And I'm trying to think of, yeah. So this was I I was getting training during COVID, and I was basically doing the job of a nurse for minimum wage, and it was very high stress, and it was just like a pain to have to go from having to test people for COVID to making phone calls to doctors to having to count prescriptions, to going back and forth between different lines of people trying to fill out prescriptions and give them their prescriptions at the same time. Yeah, yeah, corporate brutality. And yeah, I mean, we had there was one day, right, where the pharmacist, I think he was an immigrant from Uganda, I want to say, like barely spoke English, and he was, just from my observation, he was barely qualified to work that job. And I'm over here trying to help everyone out. I got like three different lines of people, two long lines in the parking lot and one long line inside the store. And yeah, I mean, it was just me and him. So it you gotta wonder, whether me um, failing that exam to get a certification was like a blessing in disguise or not. But at the same time, it's like, okay, let's say I did get that certification and I did become like a certified pharmacy technician. Well, my company went bankrupt. So how many stores was that? I want to say maybe 500 stores shut down, um, or more than that, if I can remember. Let me actually look that up. Let's see. Yeah, because I don't remember the exact number of stores that were. Okay, so yeah, 2,000 stores. So 2,000 stores nationwide back in 2023. Um, and then CVS, they're doing pretty bad. Last I checked, they shut down, I want to say 500 locations. Walgreens is doing the exact same thing. They're cutting back, I want to say maybe 300 different locations. You were rejected by the ADF. Oh, okay, you wanted to be in the army. I couldn't do it. It's and look, I know like, being in the army isn't just oh hey Dominic. No, 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 no. Walgreens and CVS, like they're not closing, but it's like a lot of these big name pharmacies that are like overexpanding and just are not able to make it, in terms of like, uh revenue. They just have no choice but to shut down stores because they overexpanded too much, and a lot of them are having issues recovering from COVID. So that's basically the only option that they have is, and it's not like they're going to pay their employees anymore. Yeah, yeah, no, it's a big operation. But um, that was my last job. So right now I'm working at well, I'm not going to say like what I'm working at right now, but I'm trying to get into computers, but at the same time, it's like I don't know where exactly data entry or coding will be in the future. Because I'm watching all, well, I got it. I know someone that does work as a software engineer, and he's saying he's not afraid of AI, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you just what what hurts so much about being Gen Z, or I'm terrified for Gen Alpha, is like the uncertainty of it all, you know, and it just seems like like every decision I've made, there's always been like a level of uncertainty. Whereas previous generations, it's like, okay, you were a boomer, you were able to, work, 40 years, 50 years at one job and you would have been fine. You could have been like a florist, or you could have been whatever, a lineman at like a GM, and you would have been fine. You know, it's honestly, it's the uncertainty that terrifies me. Like, when I wake up in the morning or I try to go to bed. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm buying our rare earth stock. That's why I'm trying to buy like a stock that, in companies that like are in lithium ion batteries. And yeah, no, I'm not saying like AI is going to be like oh, what's the term? Self reliant, or like, have some sort of like, um, be essentially like a replacement for a person just yet. But that's what they want. Like all these mass layoffs, when you look at Amazon, I think it was, what was the last number? I think 600,000 workers were just laid off. It's because that's what they want. And if they can do that, that's what they'll do, you know. But I mean, this is why now more than ever, I mentioned this before in your server, but it's like we need to have some sort of unity in the black pill. I probably YouTube's already gonna probably censor this already now that I said the BP word, but but they they're trying to sow division, and it already, hurts so much, to see fellow BP YouTubers sow division amongst those that are already hurting and that are already in pain, right? This, going back to like the beef I had with Collective Dismal, it's one of those things where it's like you really want to try and put yourself as like a superior among, a a class, like, among a group of loners and losers. You're going to set yourself up as like an influencer and say like, you know, yeah, look, we all have it bad, but I'm your leader. I'm the great one here. You should all listen to me, you know. Same goes for like a lot of these other guys, like Rehab Room and um I don't like I don't think Thinking Ape has like a ego or whatever, but my problem with him is that he can't whether it's his job or not, it's not necessarily the problem. It's more so like he whether he knows it or not is dispensing sorrow and despair. And him and well both him and Rehab Room, are dispensing, determinism. And I'm not a determinist. And because I've mentioned this before in past videos, I get a lot of people that, insult me and say like, "Well, you're not a real black pillar, because you have to be a fatalist, you have to be a determinist." No, no, you don't have to be. It's part of their product and business model. Yeah, no, no, I agree. That's why, they keep coming back at me and saying like, "Oh, you're not a real, whatever that means, real incel. You're not a real part of the BP." Like they ask like, "Why are you even in here?" They they don't want to hear positivity. They don't want to hear um ideas that could get them out of the situation they're in. Um One of the reasons I've really been enjoying Bobby, the Bobby Bible, is he got lumped in with like the BP scene, right? Even though like I wouldn't really put him within like our sphere, but he's the only one that's talking about class struggle, and he kind of has like a similar message to like Jimmy Dore, where he doesn't care your political affiliation, he doesn't care about your income level, he doesn't care about your race, like Collective Dismal does. What he cares about is the fact that we have a common enemy, which in my case would be like the 1%. It could be, the managerial class. I know Catherine Liu, she calls it the project managerial class. And they see us as less than serfs. They see us as peasants. And we are just resources to be stripped of, to have, um, we're just animals, slaves to have all of our resources extracted out of. It's it's not a very popular talking point among the circle when you have a group of fatalists and determinists, you know, where the only thing they can do is kick each other down. It's the crabs in a bucket mentality. And it's not healthy because w- we the problem when you watch a lot of these guys, I can't think of his name right now. I know he's one of Collected Dismal's buddies. Um, Thomas White, he's one of these guys that like has a lot of these issues that I really don't like. They have this sort of antagonism against normies, right? And look, I've got my own issues with normies or whatever, but I don't have this hostility towards them where I segregate myself from them and I pathologize them as if there's some separate entity. What these guys do, some of them, not everyone within the BP, not everyone, that calls himself an incel. What these guys do is they'll say, "Hey, we have it worse than the normie, but at least we're not the normie. I'm better than the normie," is what these guys will say. They'll castigate the normie and they'll say things like, "Well, the normie has a good job. The normie has social clout and relationships by virtue of being a normie." And they'll incite very hateful rhetoric, um, violence, envy against the normie, and it's just it's not a good look. Dennis, my counterpoint to determinism is that we have agency and choice theory. Yeah, um, my, you know, I was watching one of Thinking Abe's videos, and it was so weird, because I've been drawing since I was in high school, and he made one video where he was saying that he tried learning how to draw, and this is a skill set that can take a very long time. It's not something that you can just learn in a year. It's something that, and we don't look. I don't know how the brain operates. I'm not, you know, it, that interested in neurology or whatever. Um, I've read some literature on behavioral psychology, but not enough to know how the brain functions or whatever. But he was making a video where he said he tried learning how to draw, but he found the process so frustrating that he believed that by his genetics, he was just not meant to be an artist. And I found that really reductive because the process of learning to do something new is very frustrating. Um, and it's easy to give up on something. Like I'm not very good at playing Batman Arkham Asylum. Is it Arkham Asylum or is it Gotham City? I forget. Um, the control scheme, it's embarrassing, but like the control scheme just does not suit well with like the other types of games that I play. Like I usually play RPGs, and then I also like some platformers, 3D platformers. But so playing those Batman games, it's like, yeah, it just doesn't fit me. But I can quit, or I can just learn it. But at the same, but it's just one of those things where it's like I'm not gonna blame my genes, you know, on w- me not being good at this. But I don't know if I'll. The thing with like making content on YouTube and just like voicing yourself out as like a your person, kind of using this platform as like a diary of sorts. You kind of wonder like who is actually okay. Nice talking to you, Dennis. It's one of those things where you kind of gotta wonder, who out there is like actually listening. Who out there is genuinely interested in what you have to say. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Dennis. I think a major problem with content creation nowadays is A lot of people call it the attention economy. Right now, I've been thinking about the thumbnails, or like sort of like an economy focused on rage bait and misinformation, right? So I was looking at a thumbnail for like a video on Windows, and basically, this it was this guy had a line of code, and he was saying like, Windows doesn't want you to know this, and it's like, all right, you know, look, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Microsoft, even though I have a Windows 11, not everything has to be sensationalized. Not every. I feel like that's the vast majority of people that are on this platform, is they just want to sensationalize everything. They just want to, and that leads into, like, misinformation. That leads into um, different problems, regarding with the BP space, the inkwell space. If I can sensationalize your life, your problems, as much as possible, and tell you how bad you have it, tell you how terrible your life is, that will garner more clicks for me. That will garner more ad revenue, more likes, more followers. Instead of giving advice, instead of giving motivation, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that that's toxic positivity. It's easier if I were to tell you that your concerns are real, but why don't you just come to my channel and let me tell you how bad you have it, and that there's nothing you can do, and the only thing you should be doing is listening to my voice. That your life is so bad that the only thing you can do is give up and follow my channel. That, I think, is the problem with a lot of these BP channels. It's a it's not it's more than just a grift. It's a type of parasocial relationship. Emphasis on the parasocial, because it's a parasite. None of these guys like actually do care about you. When I mentioned rehab room, I'm talking about a guy that charges you money to get access to his Discord server. Who else does that? You know, he can rage all he wants about $300 motivational courses, but why does he need $5? It may seem like a small fee, but why does he need $5 from you, for him to tell you how ugly you are, how bad you have it, to just give up? So that's something that's been on my mind, and it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better because people will just, they want to hear it, and they want to wallow in their misery. Like I mentioned, the crabs in the bucket mentality. But things will get worse. I was just watching some statistics about the declining birth rates, the lack of participation in the workforce. I was looking at the suicide rates in the U.S. going up, and knowing that we have these channels, I asked the question: these how what are these guys doing to help? I'm not upset at the idea of the BP being a type of realism to look out at what we have in the world that we're being given and to provide some clarity. I'm all for that. But if it's just going to be a community of people that wallow in misery and don't try to actually make an effort to change their lives, and in fact encourage other people to be miserable and to join them, then yeah, I do have a problem with that. I don't know. It's it's very frustrating, and it's why I stopped making content. I believe the last video I uploaded was 6 months ago. Um, and there's more to be said within this space. It's not just about being a virgin. It's not just about not being able to find a woman or a marriage material or whatever, right? There's a lot to be said about people in your life that make your existence worth living. There's a lot to be said about childhood. There's a lot to be said about your parents. There's a lot to be said about your community, your friendships. And I believe a lot of that gets unstated in this space because we have, I hate to quote some of these academics I really don't like, but a lot of them do make a good point when they talk about masculinity, heterosexuality, and this weird sort of desire in terms of what they call girl craziness. But, you know, there's okay. So let me clarify what I mean by that. What I mean by that is a lot of people like us are conditioned to believe that the only way to access genuine expressions of intimacy, genuine forms of affection or love is through the opposite sex. And by that, an extension would be like a sexual partner. But that's not true. You can have a genuinely wonderful relationship with someone, and I mean like a friendship or a mentor or someone else, right? That doesn't have to involve sexual relations. We've lost these type of dynamics in terms of relationships over the course of centuries and millennia. And I want to say after World War One, we've put a very specific focus on the sexual relationship, particularly actually I want to say in the 1940s. Because in the 1940s, the contraception, the both the condom and the birth control pill were made more widely available and were able to be distributed to the general public. So then, more emphasis and more importance was placed on the sexual dynamic between um, boys and girls, and this was also the period where the word teenager finally came into the English lexicon. I guess I should say the American lexicon. So it was finally being observed as like, okay, there's this gap between childhood and adulthood. But a lot of us are in this period of I'm drawing a blank right now, but temporary. Um, no, that's not the word. We're basically stuck in high school. We missed the boat, and we weren't able to launch into adulthood. And so a lot of people within this space constantly have sex on the mind. They constantly have the fact that they're a virgin on the mind as some sort of failure. When I want to present the opposite, I want to present the idea that being a virgin the idea that, you're alone is not necessarily a bad thing. That you can use your loneliness, use your virginity as a good. That you have so much available in your life, and you have the potential for so many different types of relationships out there that you just don't know are out there. We've the problem is that we've made it so difficult to form different types of adult friendships or adult relationships that are not based on sex, because every type of interaction that we have nowadays, whether it be at work or school or whatever, is all transactional, which is a shame. I don't know how to conquer that. I don't know how to fight it, because it that's one of the many reasons why we're on the decline as a species. It's one of the many reasons why we'll eve I was just looking at UK statistics. They are below replacement level. It's not just, the UK, it's Norway, it's, Finland, it's the United States, it's Mexico, surprisingly. Morocco is below replacement levels, or I think they're just at replacement levels. But, and then abortion, very, very high, not good. So, we have a lot of challenges, and it's not it's not gonna be solved within this generation. Not gonna be solved within this generation. It probably won't be solved within Gen Alpha. What are they fighting? They're fighting constant stream of attention, without social media. I do believe that, not just virtual reality, I do believe augmented reality and, AI will, make it much worse. I do believe that, within Gen Alpha's lifetime, we are gonna see, like, um, augmented, robotic girlfriends be a reality, which will be horrifying, because many within the space will be very happy about it, because finally their 2D anime waifus will be real, but they'll not they won't understand that it's a terrible substitute for real intimacy. They will understand that the human body, the human brain was not developed for a machine that was made to be with another person. But we've grown accustomed to objectifying the person through pornography, through anime, and so we've reduced man to an object, a fleshlight, a masturbation machine, and I I don't know. Let me I think I think I'm gonna call it quits for now. I'm gonna see if anyone, wants to call in. Um, but if not, I'll probably just end it for now. But let me see how to, share a link, and then if not, I'll, call it quits. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I think that's the link. All right. I'm not seeing anyone online, so I think, Hey, Copers. Did you want to call in? I can give you a link, unless you're busy. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I didn't link my channel on my Discord. I probably might do that now that I'm streaming. I don't know when you came in, Copers, but if you wanted to call in, I can send you the link. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah, I'll probably just end it right now because I think I said all I needed to say. So, but no, this is the first time I've done something like this. Most of the time I make just rambling content on OBS and I edit it down. But yeah, all right, all right. See you guys later.